I don't stand side by side with nobody till I bleed with them first.
What did we just see? You probably think this world is a dream come true.
When I step into this ring, yeah, bro, I am addicted.
Don't sleep on Luca!
Maybe tomorrow we'll all wear 42.
If you fight for your dreams will fight for you.
This Is Why is Paramore's sixth full-length studio album that comes off the back of a 6-year-long wait. Last we heard from Paramore was 2017's After Laughter, an album that saw Paramore take on a more new wave and pop approach. But to the faithful fans, classic Paramore still remained. See, while the album has its glimmering surface, deep below is an album filled with doubt, frustration, and even topics such as self-sabotage. And now, 6 years later, we return with an album that has a whole lot to say about the past 6 years. Years filled with fear and disappointment about what the world is turning into, a global pandemic, and having to deal with the rise of emotions such as pettiness, atrophy, and once again self-sabotage. It's an album where Paramore wears their influences on their sleeves. It's an album that turns back the clock sonically, as Hayley Williams would go on to say, "I got to yell a lot on this record, and I was afraid of that because I've been treating my voice so kindly, and now I'm smashing it to bits." And this anger has no better display than on the first single release of the album, This Is Why. After 6 years away, the band returned with this single and let everybody know just what they thought. This Is Why can have many interpretations depending on what angle you approach it from. It very clearly has ties to the pandemic and how many weren't allowed to leave, but also how many were harshly treated during the pandemic. People who simply complied with regulations were harassed by opposition, and the Asian demographic was unfairly targeted, harassed, and assaulted in blatant acts of racism. In a more personal viewpoint, the song can be viewed as the members' feelings on being role models. After nearly 20 successful years in the business, it's no surprise that many will look to you as inspiration and role models. But with that comes having your life be viewed under a microscope, having every little action and comment of yours analyzed and used against you. And so, staying inside their home seems like the less draining and daunting option. That is, until you look at it from the approach of somebody struggling mentally, having to combat issues such as anxiety, depression, loneliness, and much more. This is beautifully illustrated in the song when Williams compares taking one step out the door to a free fall. When emotions and thoughts such as that come into play, it makes even the simplest of tasks harder. And to make matters worse, when the outside world doesn't look any better, you now find yourself stuck between a rock and a hard place. You want to leave the house, as being stuck in the same setting likely won't improve one's mood. But the outside world is currently filled with hate, violence, and overall the unknown of what can happen when leaving the house for even the shortest amount of time. The News is a very simple yet effective song when it comes to its message. The song describes a situation that almost every person on the planet has experienced. Watching worldly events occur on the news and all the different emotions that come with it. Again, a song that has multiple interpretations. The first verse describes Williams seeing a war occurring on the other side of the planet, and it causes her to turn off the news. A normal reaction, as many feel different emotions when watching the news. Anger and disgust, fear and anxiety, disappointment and helplessness. In the chorus, Williams states, "Every second our collective heart breaks. Altogether every single head shakes." Nobody is happy with what occurs on the news. Everybody is saddened by the news that is given. But what are we ever able to do about it? Will anything we do be good enough? Williams elaborates on this in the very next verse, stating, "I'm so far from the front line, quite the opposite, I'm safe inside, but I worry and I give money and I feel useless behind this computer." Williams expresses a sense of helplessness in these lines. She has no way of relating to these people's struggles. In fact, she feels a tiny bit of guilt as she is so much better off than these people that she sees struggling. With that realization also comes the desire to help out the less fortunate, leading to her donating to multiple relief funds. But again, giving money isn't quite enough to remove the guilt she's feeling. Many of us are fortunate to be in better situations than most around the world, and so as a result, we feel bad that this isn't the norm. We feel useless because despite trying our hardest, the powers that be will never allow for a world where things such as war aren't devastating the lives of millions around the world. And so, to combat this, we turn off the news. We try to play the ignorance card. If we turn off the news, we don't have to acknowledge the pain occurring in our world. But, like Williams says on the chorus, shut your eyes, but it won't go away. The problems are always going to be there, even if we don't see it. But why might somebody do this? Why would somebody willingly ignore the problems of others? Well, though it's not visible to the naked eye, Williams actually answers this in the very first verse. She states, "And I've got a war right behind my eyes, right behind them, just like a headache." Everybody has their own individual problems in life: mental, financial, familial, relationship. And with that comes this struggle, or more appropriately, this frustration of balance. With so much occurring around the world, especially during the pandemic times, many found themselves overwhelmed. It wasn't that they didn't care, it was just that there was too much to care about. And on top of their own problems, there was the global pandemic, the health of loved ones to worry about, racial tensions reaching its peak, war, food shortages, supply shortages, so much going on, and overall leaving everybody tired with having to deal with one thing after the other. Running Out of Time explores the notion of time as well as time management. The universal struggle of feeling like there isn't enough time each day and that time is also moving too quickly. Simple tasks such as sending flowers to neighbors, walking the dog, shout out to Alf, or sending condolences go uncompleted. All this makes Williams question her own character. Is it because she never has enough time? Or is it because she lacks empathy? As she says, she had good intentions, but intentions only get you so far. If she never acts upon her intentions, can she still feel like a good person? Running Out of Time is also very much a sister track to the next track, C'est Comme Ça. By that, I mean that it similarly addresses the fear of not being in control and the struggle of coping with such feelings. Running Out of Time first displays this when Williams states, "There was traffic, spilled my coffee, crashed my car, otherwise would have been there on time. Shoulda, coulda, wouldn't matter, ultimate alibi. You know it's a lie." These lyrics display that life is an unknown and anything and everything can happen at a moment's notice. Things would have gone right if this didn't happen. If this went how it should have, we try to come up with excuses, but in the end, we know we are only lying to ourselves to make ourselves feel better. Similarly, C'est Comme Ça describes Williams' inner struggles that many times are out of her control. As she's grown older, she has to deal with ailing pains and changing her lifestyle. No caffeine, less going out, wanting a more laid-back lifestyle. She has an inner clash because part of her is so used to that chaotic life, while another part realizes that it's time to move on. She knows that this isn't the most fun option, but that's what comes with getting older. To continue living the chaotic lifestyle, whether mentally or socially, comes with a heavy price to pay when she'll get older. This is most evident with the fact that her neck is actually damaged from all the years of headbanging at concerts. This is the way of life, and all she can say to cope with it is "C'est comme ça," which simply translates to, "It is what it is." Big Man, Little Dignity is definitely one of the songs I struggled the most with analyzing. At first I thought it was about a relationship where the other person is blissfully ignorant to the wrong they do, but as I look more into it, as well as browse the community's input, many infer that the song is about celebrities and other important figureheads in society who are able to weasel their way out of controversy and face little to no consequences. And similar to the news, you can only watch in a sense of awe as our society allows these people to get off clean without showing any signs of genuine remorse or accountability. You First sees Williams discuss an inner battle between good and evil, as well as her succumbing to her pettiness. This isn't the first time we've seen this battle within her, as on her first solo album, Petals for Armor, she discussed this very same feeling on Simmer. She knows that though these feelings can be justified, they aren't necessarily the healthiest, and the only person she has to blame is herself, as she is the one that allows for those feelings to be fed and grown. And this is beautifully displayed on the chorus where she states, everyone is a bad guy and there's no way to know who's the worst. If karma's gonna come for all of us, well, I hope that she comes for you first. I think this chorus is one of my favorite sets of lyrics on the album because of just how genuine it is. Anyone who's been through a messy relationship almost in a sense wishes the worst upon the other person, but are blind to the truth. Both sides could easily point out the wrongs committed by the other person, but will always value our own side of the story, wish the worst upon the other person, and fail to realize that we can be just as much in the wrong and deserving of whatever comes our way. And speaking of toxic situations, Figure 8 finds Williams discussing how a relationship has left her feeling stuck. This relationship has left her drained, feeling as she's given her all to somebody who couldn't even reciprocate. Her lines, "Pearls before swines," best illustrates her struggle. In the previous song, we saw Williams' battle between right and wrong. Here we see that struggle again, as this time her knowledge comes from the Bible. Matthew chapter 7 verse 6, where Jesus instructed to not cast our pearls before swine. Essentially, we should value things and not waste them on things that cannot understand or appreciate properly. So in this case, Williams is constantly giving her love to somebody who doesn't properly appreciate it, and though she knows this is the worst situation to find herself, she continues in this infinite loop of allowing this person to drain her. After being in such a toxic relationship, we see how this affects Williams' future experience on Liar, a song that details Williams slowly falling in love with fellow bandmate Taylor York, but lying to herself and him about how genuine the love is. We see her doubt rise in the very beginning, where she questions when this love even started to form. And when those feelings started developing more and more, she simply kept trying to keep them hidden because in her eyes, she was protecting him from her. After such a terrible relationship, she doesn't know what pure, genuine love is like. And so, she doesn't want to hurt him by making him think she loves him, only to later find out that it wasn't what she was feeling at the time. So, she lies to herself and him about her true feelings. As time passes though, and as she continues to develop these feelings, she realizes that there was no reason to lie and be afraid. On the second pre-chorus, she elaborates and says that there was no reason to hide what was so crystal clear. They both knew it just took Williams having to overcome the fear and doubt that she was left with from her previous relationship. To me, the closing bridge is like a message Williams is saying to herself, hoping for her to finally come to her senses. Love is not an easy thing to admit, but I'm not ashamed of it. Love is not a weakness if you feel it rushing in. Don't be ashamed of it. It is here where we reach a point in which I was initially conflicted. Our final two songs, Crave and Thick Skull. The conflict within me was trying to decide which of the two songs I prefer as the closer for this album. Crave is a song that I feel parallels the closing song of Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, Mirror. Crave sees Williams look back on everything Paramore has done since their inception. All the trials and tribulations, band lineup changes, heartbreak, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, maturing, being in the spotlight, all the ups and downs, all the memories that the band can recite many times without needing photos or videos. Many look back with regret. Paramore looks back and wishes to be able to do it all over again, but not in the manner of regret, the manner of acceptance and joy. To look back on the worst times and still be able to find the good in it. This song is a testament to their growth as humans. They are content with what happened then, now, and what is to come in the future. The crave they have isn't to go back and change. It's to be able to experience it all over again. Thick Skull, however, has its own reasons for being the final song. According to Miss Williams, Thick Skull is her letting out every bit of insecurity she has developed since the beginning of her career. This song sees Williams yelling the most, letting it all out, with her reasoning being that this is the final album of the contract they signed back when she was just a teen. So, as they move on to the new phase of their lives and as a band, she wants to leave it all in the past. She lets it all out on this track. How she blames herself for a lot of the pain she experienced, all the people she's hurt over the years, having to break this cycle of pain and healing properly. And as you dig deeper, many fans interpret lyrics as referring to controversies such as members leaving, controversial lyrics that the band has had, Williams having to take all the blame as the lead of the band, malicious comments questioning her romantical life, people focusing on her rather than the entire efforts of the band, and just so much more. To Williams, she'll take the blame one last time, if it means that the band can move forward and not look back. And though I felt initially that Crave was a perfect closer to the album, I realized the greater story at hand. Crave is the closing song of this album because Crave and Thick Skull are one song together. Crave illustrates Paramore looking back one final time on the journey. Thick Skull illustrates Paramore looking ahead with their careers, leaving behind all of the drama and struggle that plagued their careers. They have reminisced, they have accepted, and now they move forward.